All right, so you want to get out of the gray space. You want to rebuild the physical architecture of your life. The first thing you have to do is ground yourself in reality. Pay attention to the world you're standing in today. Make a list of everything you've done in the past 12 hours and everything you've been doing in the past week. No joke, sit your ass down and write out how you spend your time. Answer questions like, what have I been doing today? What have I been eating? What are my daily habits? When did I get out of bed? Have I gotten out of bed? To ground yourself in reality, you need to know what that reality is. So watch yourself and capture the raw data of your life. Because if you write what you see, it's gonna tell you a whole lot more about how and why you're stuck than trying to think your way out of this. I understand introspection may seem like the way to go, but the gray space isn't something you can think your way out of. If you want to get unstuck, you have to let yourself be stuck. Next, specify which of these habits perpetuate your gray space, and define the reality of what your gray space actually looks like.
I have random, FedEx deliveries of despondency, just like I didn't order this. Oh, well, keep the PJs on. Cancel everything you're doing today. It's time to take a sad shower. That happens to me, right?
I would wake up, get my laptop in my lap, be IMing all day, and then suddenly it was 9 o'clock at night and I hadn't gotten out of bed the whole day.
You have to be able to look around in the gray space and know that you're in it. Because the point of the gray space is to make you think you're not in it. It's to cloud your vision long enough for you to get through your entire day. And as you lay your head down to rest, as that fog clears, you look back and see all the ways you weren't the brother or the son or the friend you want to be, all the ways you weren't the you want to be. But by this point, it's too late and it's just easier to go to bed. So make that list of everything that sends you into the fog of inactivity. Recognize the patterns and procedures that make up your particular flavor of fatigue. And for the record, I'll go ahead and say that in my book, the gray space isn't your depression. It's not that darkness you may be in, but rather the fog that surrounds you in that darkness. It's all the habits and routines that blind you to the steps you could be taking to climb out of this desolate place. So to articulate your gray space, try answering questions like, what habits end up with me on my ass staring at a screen for hours? How long is that actually relaxing, and at what point does it go from relaxation to resentment? What am I running from, and what am I doing to run from it? And both answers are important there, but right now we're interested in how we're running from it. And if you're struggling to get words on the page, try looking at the gray space in relation to what it's not. Ask yourself, what have I done recently that's felt meaningful? Now, what do I do every day that pulls me away from that? When I tried on that question, man, it rattled me. I couldn't think of the last time I'd had fun. I didn't even know what fun was anymore. I was in this perpetual state of retreat. I'd wake up at 2 p.m., roll over to my laptop still open from the night before, click resume on Parks and Rec where I fell asleep, and then grab my phone and scroll through socials. And I mean, there's no way in hell I could say any of this was enjoyment. Not when my shame was what would migrate me from my bed to the couch before my dad got home from work. So that's what mine looked like. Anime, Twitch, Overwatch, Netflix, porn, beer, nachos, hummus, even hummus. At the rate I was eating it probably wasn't healthy. God, how did I make hummus unhealthy? Who knows? The questions we ask ourselves. Anywho, get your gray space down on the page. Because once you've got that, we can move on to step 3.
1, 2, 3.
Step 3. Okay, here's the skinny. So I believe we all have this mental mixtape of vague, unanswerable questions floating around in our heads. And these questions are perfectly curated and played by a mental jukebox to specifically counteract any thoughts of motivation or drive we might have. So the third step to grounding yourself in reality involves cataloging the track list of your mental mixtape.
I don't understand.
I don't understand either.
It'd be easier to just run through an example, so let's do that. Okay, flashback to that imagery I just left you with, layabout 22-year-old, 3 p.m., Cheeto dust, you get the idea. Now imagine I'm scrolling through that exhaustive lineup of YouTube tabs. I'm watching junk, I'm watching garbage, until I land on this Casey Neistat video where I hear him say,
he achieved the dream. He's a rock star. And he was a rock star because he committed his entire life to it. Everything committed to it. And in the end, he's like 60 years old. He got it.
And after that, I'm fired up. All I can think is, yes, that's what's possible. I'm ready to commit my entire life to my dream. And right after I have that thought, immediately after I have that thought, the jukebox registers that keyword of dreams and shuffles through all the genres of insecurity, of doubt, of fear, till it lifts the album, the all too friendly album of Fear in My Career, and plays the perfect track list, the perfect set list of questions to talk me out of even the first steps towards something that might be worthwhile. Questions like, what is your dream? How do you know that's the right dream? Why don't you know what your dream is by now? Why don't I want it as bad as they do? What if you go after that dream and it's a bust? If I did, wouldn't I be working harder? Working harder at what? Do you even know what it's not actually your passion? What if it's like all the things you've done in the past that you enjoyed? Why don't I have an answer for any of this? Why don't I love something as much as Casey loves film, or Nathaniel loves cello, or Remy loves to cook? Isn't that just wasted time? Have I wasted too much time? It's too late for me, isn't it? And bada bing, bada boom, just like that, the spark of enthusiasm has been extinguished. That aliveness has just been cleared from the table.
The Stellar Jukebox, sir.
I tell you, this jukebox is cunning. It's not forceful, it's fluid and subtle. These questions don't stomp on your thoughts. That would raise too much alarm. No, they spin your psyche in on itself to sidetrack you, to overwhelm you, so that instead of action, you choose distraction, and thus comfort becomes the norm. It's wild. But again, let me reiterate, we're not trying to rework any of this. We're just here to capture these questions. And I think as you capture them, what you might find, what I found, was that some of these questions, some of these tracks were played so often, the grooves on that record were worn in so deep, like packed snow turns to ice, that in my brain, they calcified into statements. Songs rewritten from what if to you're not. So when I'd think about building a career out of sharing something that I enjoyed, when I'd hear Chris Gethard say something like this,
You know, if you're an artist who has a chance to say something that might actually connect with people or help people, and you don't take that chance, what good are you? Like, what good are you?
it's like the jukebox pulls out the greatest hits album it's been saving for these special occasions and plays the top track titled, You're Not an Authority. You don't have the right to make something in league with those people that you look up to because you haven't put in the work. You haven't grinded it out. You haven't written books. You haven't built businesses. You have no expertise, no experience, nothing of value that you could share. No credentials to prove that what you have to say is worth being heard. You're not an authority. And I tell you, it's hard to believe anything but that track that's played. And that's just one of the thousands of thoughts we play that pull us off the path towards the people we want to be. So for right now, capture what you can. Get your greatest hits album on paper. We don't need all of them, just your most played tracks, as messy or as disorganized as it may be. Just get your mixtape on the page. It's necessary for the final step, which I promise is coming up soon. Oh, look at that. Okay, sweet. So now that we've articulated these three aspects, we've got your reality, check. We've got your gray space, check. We've got your mental mixtape, check. The final step is to combine them. With all three of these aspects combined, it makes up a rough outline of who you are today. A sketch of who you are right now, and we need that outline because that's your reality. And the cool thing is, just by doing that, you've grounded yourself in it. Boom! Stage one. Done. And I mean, of course there's more to it than that. Of course there's more going on under the surface. But with this outline, you can finally start to see your reality for what it is. You can finally start to see the game you've been in, but this time around, actually start playing in it. So whatever that jukebox is saying to try to convince you to procrastinate on this work,
Let's get back at it tomorrow, yeah?
instead of trying to fight it, listen to it and take what it's saying, take those thoughts and put them on paper. You have no excuse because your excuses are the raw material with which you take these steps. I can't think of a smaller step because your life, your mind has already done all of the work for you. All you have to do is copy the answers. So in 10 seconds, exit this video, open your notes app, and write it down. Done. Give me that goodness, baby. Ow! Check, please. That's my new catchphrase. I'm taking that one to the bank.